Dad had chosen to keep fighting for me when it would have been easier to walk away. Gary had chosen to manipulate and control rather than trust and support. The difference between them wasn't just about money or lies. It was about what they believed a parent's role should be. Dad wanted to empower me. Gary wanted to possess me. I graduated college 4 years later with a degree in criminal justice and a specialization in family law. Dad and Sarah were in the front row at my graduation, along with Connor, Mom, and Grandma. We were a non-traditional family, but we were a real family. Gary had sent a card, returned to sender, since I'd moved and hadn't given him my new address. My first job was with a nonprofit that helps children navigate custody disputes and parental alienation cases. I knew exactly how those kids felt. The confusion, the guilt, the sense that loving one parent meant betraying another. The most important thing, I would tell them, is that this isn't your fault. Adults sometimes make bad choices that affect kids, but those choices don't reflect on your worth or your right to be loved. I thought about Gary often in those early months of my career, not with anger anymore, but with a kind of clinical fascination. How had he justified 12 years of systematic manipulation to himself? How had he convinced himself that stealing my money and blocking my father was for my own good? The answer, I realized, was that people can convince themselves of anything if the alternative is admitting they've been wrong. Gary's identity was built around being the good guy who stepped up for his family. Admitting that he'd actually been the villain would have required rebuilding his entire sense of self. So he doubled down instead. He turned me into the ungrateful daughter and Dad into the deadbeat father, because that narrative protected his ego. But here's what Gary never understood. Love isn't about ownership. Real love doesn't require erasing someone else from the equation. Real love trusts that there's enough room in a heart for multiple people. Dad proved that every day. He never badmouthed Gary, even after everything came out. He never tried to erase the positive memories I had of my childhood. He understood that acknowledging Gary's role in raising me didn't diminish his own importance in my life. You can have complicated feelings about your stepfather, he told me once. He did raise you for 12 years. That means something, even if he did it in the wrong way. That's the difference between a secure parent and an insecure one. Dad didn't need to be the only man in my life to feel important. Gary couldn't handle sharing me with anyone. 5 years after everything came out, I got married. Dad walked me down the aisle, with Connor as one of the groomsmen and Mom in the front row. It was the family Gary had tried to prevent. Messy, complicated, but real. Gary wasn't invited, but he sent a gift anyway. An expensive vase with a note that said, "I hope you'll think of me sometimes." I returned it. Not out of cruelty, but because accepting it would have meant opening a door I'd worked hard to close. Gary's gift came with strings attached. They always did. It was another attempt to insert himself into my life on his terms.